Merry Christmas, everyone, and I hope Santa didn't leave a mess around the house. I hope anyone's uncles or aunties didn't get too drunk and run amok and start saying some stuff that happened in the 80s and has resurfaced now. It actually resurfaces every time the family gathers. I hope that everything you wished for came true. I hope the stress levels were low. I hope you all drove extremely safe. It's been a wild year. It's been a wild year, and this is our last week to make the most of 2021. So make sure that you do that. And I hope you got to spend some time with whoever it was you could find to spend time with. For myself, I was here by myself for Christmas, and I've spoken about this plenty of times with people where I just like being by myself, and if there was anything that I could ask for, it was literally just for some time to be alone and to do what I wanted to do, not have to stress about family stuff, not have to think about work, just be able to train, be able to be on my own routine, and that's fine with me. It's kind of how I wanted it to be, and we out here. So I tell people that all the time when people would ask, what's your plans? And I'd just be like, oh, I think I'm just going to have a quiet one. Like, oh yeah, a couple people or a couple family, and people get sad about it, but I think that's for me to worry about, bro. I'm not sad about it. I know I'm going to see my family really shortly. So yeah, nothing to be sad about. But please, if you are out there, stay safe, and thank you for so much for supporting me throughout this year. It's all I could have asked for, really. But yeah, here we are. It's raining outside. The fire is going, and I'm wearing shorts, and my toes are cold. But I don't know why I haven't just put socks on. But that's life. So after this, or actually what I have been doing, this is a funny thing. This is something to think about. I had a bath the other day, and I literally had been looking forward to that bath since forever. We got a bath at this new place, and I'm just like, this is luxury. And I just wanted to sit there and just take it all in. And I lay in there for about an hour, started watching some Netflix, and I just took my time in there. And it's just funny because, how everything turns over the lifetime of your lifetime, What you didn't enjoy as a child, you then start to enjoy as an adult. And I'm just talking, I used to run away from the bath. I used to get in and then just run out half butt naked when my family wasn't looking. And I never used to enjoy it unless I was maybe playing with other people or got to have bubble bath or something like that. But I never used to enjoy it. But now it's something that I really look forward to. And this is something that I wanted to know also. Do people shower before they hop into the bath? That seems like a lot of money, a lot of water for me. But yeah, so do you? Just wanted to know. Just wanting to know. Cool. So what's been happening? What has happened? I have finished work for the year, obviously. Actually, no, I've got a few more days of work to do before we get into the new year. And I graduated with my Ph.D. So everyone's pretty much been riding with me this entire journey since I've submitted, because the podcast got started when I was in my final year of my Ph.D. And we finally got there, bro. I got to wear my gown. I got to wear all my stuff. And the coolest thing ever, something that I've been wanting to do for the longest time, I got to cross the stage while the John Cena My Time Is Now theme song was playing. So that's that one. It's like I don't want to do too much of it because we might get taken down for copyright, but the lyrics are, your time is up, my time is now, you can't see me, my time is now. And basically that was playing the entire time. So I held a speaker as soon as my name came called up. It was really cool. I got one of my colleagues got to read out a little bit of a bio about me, and just, it was cool to hear what other people think of me. So they read my bio, read my full name out, and then as soon as, Troy Titiniariki Hinare Ruhe, and then as soon as she said Ruhe, boom, and then the song started, and I started walking across the stage, and everyone was bloody happy. Everyone was like, that's cool, this is so, and I just think if there was any way to go out with a doctorate, that's the way to do it. It's been something I've been wanting to do since forever. I wanted to do it at a prize giving while I was at high school, and I was just like, this is probably the last, or the closest thing to a prize giving I'm ever going to have. So I wanted to do that. And I think just this is a really cool time in terms of thinking about things we're happy about, but then also a reflection around my graduation, but also some key milestones from my actual entire degree in the doctoral program. Just a few key highlights for me. So I want to make this really short just to go through the things that I'm very grateful for. while going through it, but also some of the reflections on the day of the graduation as well. So my family got to come down and got to be with me just to enjoy, me wearing my regalia. The first one, and I spoke about it in my speech that I did, is that I had a kakahu. So a kakahu is like the cloak. It looks like a korowai that you put over yourself. So if you saw in the photos that I had my robes, original robes, the maroon ones, and then on top of that I wore this cloak, and it looked like it had feathers and everything on it because it did. So what that kind of resembled, it's a marker just to show like which family you are, where you represent, and sometimes the different feathers on it, or sometimes the different patterns are like specific to the different areas of Aotearoa that you're from, or the tribes that you're from. Some of it may have like family meanings, like similar to like a coat of arms or something. Something might be identifiable on this kakahu. So I got to be the first to wear the ruhe baba kind of kakahu that's been coming together. So Helen, my dad's wife, now, if you guys heard that I've been through the marriage and everything, so they're married, and as part of that we have the joining, or the spiritual and physical, joining or connection between our two whānau, and with that comes, the new offspring from that, and what that offspring was is new life and new energy as this new identity that we've developed. So with that, we have a kakahu. So a kakahu gets to adorn whoever it is who has a big day, or whenever really. And I was the first to wear this one because obviously since them being married, I was the first to graduate or do something substantial from that time. So it's pretty cool that like we kick it all off at the start of it. So like our children are going to wear it, and then from there, their children's children will hopefully wear it as well. And it was cool. I think at first I was a little bit like, I'd rather wear my marae one, because the marae one that I wore for my undergraduate, like that's hundreds of years old and it's got legacy, and it actually stays in the marae that we're from. But then I was thinking about it and I was like, wow, this is actually the start of a new legacy, and hundreds of years from here, there's going to be someone from our bloodline who is wearing it again as they cross the stage. So it was cool to kick the legacy off, and it was cool because what I decided is we'll use it as a time capsule as well. So everyone who graduates, or everyone who wears it, or whoever the kakahu's going to adorn, we will put something on it. So for mine, when I graduated, I got my certificate, and then from that you kind of get like this little trophy thing, not a trophy thing, you get a gift from the university, from the alumni, whatever they're called, and they're just like, hey, take this, congratulations, I'm sorry we couldn't have a proper shindig for you, but here you go, take this. So I decided that that's the thing that I'm going to put on it. So on the string, the part that you actually tie at the front, I'm going to put this little key ring on that. So that's kicking it all off. So hopefully, in the next couple of years, it's just going to have different memorabilia from different graduations or whatever events take place. So that was awesome. I think that was one of the key moments for me, because obviously I transfer my title from Mr. to Doctor. So I'm officially Dr. Troy Ruhe now, and that kind of hasn't changed anything for me. I mean, I had finished my Ph.D. a year ago, and people have been calling me it anyway, but like officially now, and I won't have anyone who tries to call me up and fight me, because I will happily fight them. But yeah, that was a cool real part there. And I think one of the biggest things that came across, so what I'll talk about is, in terms of my graduation, the road to getting there. At the very beginning of it all, I was 23 years old, and I put together this process, or this protocol, for what would then become my PhD. I wanted to do a physical activity program that incorporated the Cook Islands dance that we do for the aerobics, and we have different types of dance. We have Cook Islands dance, ura, all together, and then as part of that you have different categories of those dances. So what I did is I looked at them, I looked at the types of movements that we would do in each of them, and then I used one for like a warm-up and kind of flow, and then I used one for higher kind of alactic training. So that's just someone who has done the movements for a very, very long time. And then after that I was just like, I think these use these different energy systems, and I'd like to know what energy systems they do use. There had been no research ever done on that before. How much energy expenditure do you actually get from doing these different things? So I was like, hey, that would be cool. But also I thought it's actually really, really important, and what's coming out a little bit more. So regardless of what you take from this, what's important is also to resistance train to actually maintain as much muscle mass as possible, because not only does muscle look really cool on you, but it also it's an active tissue, so it actually helps with the homeostasis of glucose control, or it maintains glucose control, and actually can help with making sure that you're not going to fall, not going to break a bone when you do fall, and it actually strengthens bone, because every time you are training it, the muscle then pulls on a tendon which is attached to a bone, and every time it pulls, it adds that little bit of stress to it, which actually strengthens bone. So we can't really change bone mineral density too much, like we can't increase it too much, but what we can do is we can stop it from declining, and a lot of resistance training does do that. But yeah, muscle is very, very active tissue, so I was like, we need to do some sort of resistance training. What we found was that a lot of people who would do resistance training didn't know how to train. They're like, I would do more exercise, or I would do more resistance training, but I just don't know how to do it. So what I tried to do was break down something that we do quite often, a breakdown of movement in its entirety, and look at the different phases of that movement. And then I had each phase as a muscle group for a different movement. So for example, if you are reaching forward and pulling back, you would use primarily these muscles. So I put together a circuit that had those muscle groups and the exercises that you would do to strengthen those muscles. So people then associate a movement with a muscle group, and then from there they're like, oh, it's this one, oh, it's this one, or like, I want to strengthen this one, and then they start knowing. And one of the coolest things and all of that stuff when we were actually doing it. So in my head, it was hard to visualize, but then when I started doing it, the types of things people would say were they're just like, oh, like when I have to tie my lace or something like that, I found that this exercise like helps me to get back up. Or like when I'm reaching for stuff off the shelf, or when I'm doing my washing now, I can actually do it and my shoulders don't hurt anymore. That's the fulfilling stuff. This is why I do what I do. But also people just having fun together. So just kind of drawing on all those different things. So obviously that's the fun part, but then I had the physiological and other stuff that I had to measure as well. So I wanted to look at health parameters. I also wanted to look at physical function. So that was my PhD. And a lot of people, I think the difficult part about having so many people having a say is that when you read comments, it's a lot of people who are just pretty ignorant and just don't understand. So I don't really care, because I had an army who then jumped in and handled some people, but people were just like, oh yeah, we know that this works. And I was like, we don't actually know that it works, because in scientific rigor, you actually haven't tested that before. So what I did was I added validity to it, so that people can actually kindly say, or doctors can kindly say, you can do this because it has been shown to do this, whereas it had never been shown to do that before. And whether it needed to be measured or not, we already know if you do it. So that's the kind of contention that I have in my own mind, is that we've always known, and have I just commodified our art? But to be honest, most Cook Islands people who knew that I did it were just like, that's such a brilliant idea. So yeah, I mean, that was a contention that I had, and that was something that me as a 23-year-old was always scared of. I was always scared of our own people. I don't care about other people who see it and they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But like my own people, I don't want to disappoint my own people. So to get to the end of it and to see that there was like positive influence from just an idea that I had, just to over $100,000 was trusted with me because of an idea that I had that other people kind of did. And I remember being told, we might have to go for Plan B, another scholarship, and I submitted it anyway. We got the full funding. So that was, that was the first thing. I think that firstly showed me that it was an important idea, that I have good ideas, and that a lot of this road, because it has gone unmarched before, is going to take a lot of effort from me to be the one discovering new space for a lot of other people. So I held my ground, I put my foot down, and I made sure that this is what ended up happening, and it's exactly what happened. So I was very self-sufficient during my entire PhD process, and there are people who did support me along the way, and I think it was less an intellectual supporting, and it was more a pastoral care sort of supporting, because everyone was in the dark about what we would actually find and what are the new things that will come out of it, because it's literally a novel study and it's something that hasn't been done before. And people will always talk about, oh, I just want to do something that's never been done before. It's not often that you actually get to be the one who designed your entire project by yourself, especially at 23. So finishing it as a 27-year-old, now being 28, obviously because of the year that I lost due to maybe I hadn't written it well. Maybe I also just had a dickhead marker, and everyone's heard that story. So if you want to go back and listen to that, fair play. Yeah, I mean, that was really cool. It was cool to reflect on it. And, I did have a limitations section, which initially was about 12 pages long of me just ripping it to pieces. But then I just realized, like, of course, I only know this now because I've been through it. And when you go through limitations, if you didn't have a limitation section, or if you didn't feel like there were going to be limitations, I think that's a flaw in you and your mindset of how you go about everything. I think there's always potential for something to be better, and it's not even you being harsh on yourself. It's more just knowing that there is more. It's actually you loving yourself. It's you seeing the potential in yourself to actually achieve greater. And obviously there's always going to be limitations at the end of something, because there are just so many. When you're dealing with people, there are so many factors that you just can't take into account at that time because you've never done it before. So you don't know. And I was harsh on myself at first, but then at the end I was like, what if I want to continue in this area, or if I want someone to pick it up and to be able to go forward, these are things that they should consider when they do go ahead. And some cool stuff out of that is that I've now been approached as someone who in the Cook Islands could be a supervisor to actually help other people who want to do policy research and physical activity. So I do have a summer student who I'm working with, and we're getting some data together for some new physical activity policy that's happening there. So it's cool to kind of come out the other side and actually be a supervisor now, when I was the student, and now and being able to have questions put to me, and actually for me to be able to make the decisions and answer those. It just shows that you do mature, that you do become quite adequate at what you do, and things just start clicking because you've done it so many times, and you don't actually start. It's like a test. It's like all of the knowledge that you've done during your exam periods and when you're studying. You don't know how well you know it until someone tests you, until someone asks you. It's just like my throwing. I don't know how good I'm getting until I actually get to throw into a line out, and I can be like, wow, I've actually improved. But until you get that assurance, it's hard to know that what you're doing is right. So that's cool. It's cool to have that little checkpoint. So I was 23 years old when I got that. I got full funding, and I got to do 2 different studies, or 3 studies, because I had one big review of the literature where I read over 200 articles, and then from that I got to develop a program, and I ran it in Dunedin as well as back in the Cook Islands. And I had over 300 people approach me. I tested over 300 people, and I got to meet over 300 people during the process, and these were people who believed in what I could do, and just something. So when I went back, so in terms of my recruitment was all through word of mouth. I didn't have anything too flashy. There's always a Facebook page where everyone's commenting and where everyone's like going to have eyes on. So if you are part of communities, if you properly do your work and you want to serve communities and you have been working in communities already, you already have these links. So all of the stuff's going to come easy to you. So it was hard to write that sort of part. Like, how did we recruit the participants? I was just like, I know a lot of them. And that's just my life. I've always been involved with a lot of things. And that's the only way that I know how to be, is be involved. And what kind of happened, and this is just something, I just remembered it now. There was a guy who, I should go back to the post and try find it, but he said, all the study is going to, it doesn't matter if it's free or not. It's what's between your own ears. It's your own mindset. We've been trying to do all this, even if it's $4 class. Like, he was basically going off. He was saying that all my research, this is quote, all this research is going to show is that 100 people will sign up and only 4 people will finish, or something like that. And little did he know, I had actually over 100 people finish. So suck that one. Anyway, he's a bit of a dickhead. So I mean, from the beginning, people just don't understand why we would do this. And a lot of it was focused on weight loss, and people were thinking it was all about weight loss. So a lot of my journey was trying to change why we exercise, and why would we exercise? It's more to be able to enjoy life and to be able to be fun, having fun together, and not having to rely on so many medications, not having to rely on a surgery, not having to rely on all these different things where you could just be moving. Because exercise, just in terms of polypharmacy and thinking about blood pressure, blood sugars, all of that stuff. Exercise, if done in the right doses, can actually start to prevent those sort of things. So if you just be healthy, and this was something that during the COVID response, and it's quite difficult to bring up, because then you're fat shaming, or you're not being sensitive to someone's position. We understand that totally. We just want people to move more because it's going to be protective for other things that are going to happen. Sure, there are people who just say it's helping you lose weight, and that's where I think, because we've equated doing exercise with losing weight, people just assume that if you tell someone to exercise, we're assuming that they need to lose weight. That's not what we're saying. Basically, we're just saying is that someone who has pretty much someone's VO2 or someone's muscle mass levels is going to show just how healthy they will be compared to someone who doesn't have those. And that's what you can get from doing regular exercise. So that's where we're trying to get at. We're not fat shaming. When we do bring this stuff up, if you are someone who says we are going at you, like there are people who accused me of my research being something that's actually, it's inappropriate because of body image and all that sort of stuff. I was like, never in this entire PhD did I ever talk about body image. There was never a point. All I said is that exercise is good for people. Why? Anyway, so that's getting ahead of myself. So I got to go back to the Cook Islands. That's what I got to say. And that was I got to work with CISNOC, so Cook Islands Sport Olympic Committee, National Olympic Committee. And then I got to work with the Ministry of Health, Te Marae Ora, and the Cook Islands, and that's a relationship that I've had for a very long time, and I continue to work there with the Health Promotion Unit. I got to be, one of the representatives to help write a physical activity policy for the Cook Islands, like a national policy. And then I also got to help with their diabetes and NCD summit while I was there. And now, recently, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I was the projects, so for the projects that we were doing for the WHO, some of the new resources that were coming out in terms of being able to help with NCDs, and this one's going to be rolled out all throughout the Pacific, and I got to be the physical activity expert who looked at all the different resources and just kind of come up with some guidelines around that stuff. And a lot of the stuff that is going to come out is then going to go through me. So that's kind of cool to be that person, to just put my foot in the door, be so young, but also be so willing to take on those different roles. So through my PhD, I've learned a lot. I've gained a lot of networks. I've gained a lot of strength in knowing that I'm good enough to do a lot of the stuff. And in my graduation, it was weird. It was one of those things where I really just didn't want to do it. I was like, couldn't be bothered. I just feel like, because I've worked for an entire year, and I submitted a day before. So I submitted a year and a day before I ended up walking across the stage. So by that point, I was so over it. I was like, I felt like I've had a PhD for an entire year. But then when I did get to celebrate it and people were actually praising me and all that sort of stuff, it did hit different, It felt like, oh, wow, I feel like I made up so many things in my head. I made up I don't want to do this. I told myself I didn't want to do it because I was scared of being disappointed that it would be cancelled again, that my family couldn't come, and I just kept saying it's annoying because my family's coming, I have to look after them and all these sorts of things. But when it did happen, I actually was so grateful that it did happen, and I got the opportunity to, just to be there and to be celebrated. I think that's something that I don't do very well. I don't allow people to celebrate me. I celebrate myself in my own way. I'll go train, I'll go eat something, and I'll just spend some time by myself. It's really nice for me. But to actually be celebrated and let other people celebrate me has been something that I've been trying to work on a little bit more. Even just letting people love me and get close to me, all those sorts of things I'm trying to do a little bit more and allow, because I feel like I've shut off so many opportunities for great energy to come into my life just because I've been so closed off, and I've been so closed off because I've protected myself from just getting hurt or just from losing myself, because I'm so willing to give away so much, because when I love people, and I love with all of my heart, and I break easily as well, because some people just don't see the importance of all of that. And this is stuff that I've learnt through my maturation as not only as a PhD student, but also just going through my 20s. And being able to get to this point. So yeah, well, I think one thing that came out that also for me was quite difficult, it's been difficult for me to wrestle with this entire time, and I think it's helped that I've started the podcast and that people are actually listening to a lot of the stuff. But I think about it with like the analogy of the duck, where you just see a duck sitting on top of water. But if you've ever looked, like on YouTube, I look at this a lot, but like ducks actually go fucking ham treading water to keep themselves up, and we don't see that side. We only see what's visible to us, and that's them on top of the water just looking pretty chill. I think for a lot of my journey, it looked like it was really easy because it was pretty easy for me. I knew what to do. I kind of knew exactly what needed to be said, and it just worked for me. University just worked for me. But there were so many different struggles that I had to deal with, and a lot of it did come down to this kind of vicious cycle where, because it was so easy for me, I never got help. And when I did need help, I didn't know how to ask for help because I was always that person who was so good. And then when I did ask for help, people changed how they were around me, which fucked me up even more because I was like, I don't like the way people treat me now. I don't want this help. So people didn't know how to treat me because of, he's usually just fine. And I always have this, I'm going to be fine mentality because other people have instilled it in me, as well as I have started believing it myself, that he's always going to be fine. Oh, don't worry, you're being silly. Oh, you're Troy. Everything always works out for you. Truly, oh my gosh. And then when I do have an issue, it's like, oh, he'll be fine. But there comes a point where, until you start to realize it for yourself, if you believe what everyone else says about you, you're always going to be fine, but you're never going to be fine properly. There comes a point where you literally hit rock bottom, where you start to look, you're like, I'll be fine, and then you start to like quiver a little bit when you say it the next time. And then it actually starts looking a bit dark, and it's hard to get out of it. So that was where I was, and that's where I have been for a lot of my PhD. And like, I'm about to get a PhD, and people just like, oh, well, like, life's great for him. So that was difficult there. So even though it looked easy, it was hard for other people to see just how much of a struggle it was. And I think because of that, I don't get celebrated as much as I should. This is me just saying it now. Like, the people do way less, and like, of course, they all have struggles and stuff. But because I never looked like I struggled, no one, like, not as many people see it as a huge feat. I'm not like this celebrated person. And like, people will say, oh yeah, he's good, but he'll always be good, and he's always been good. But I had to work super hard to get to where I am. So that's just, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just salty about it, that I do really cool things and people just kind of brush it off as if it's nothing because I was always meant to do it. But for me, like, I do work super, super hard to get there. And then other people will, finally will do it, and then everyone celebrates them as if it's the biggest thing in the world. So anyway, that was a little tangent. Anyway. Cool. So just the final thought, and something I want you all to think about going into the new year, is, how do you see yourself? So since finishing my PhD, I'm not a student anymore. I'm not an excelling student anymore. I'm like at the bottom of the food chain when it comes to being an academic. In terms of my appearance, I'm finally getting strong again. I just hit a lifetime PB of a power clean. So 117.5. If you are looking for a coach, please hit up my boy Ricky Persico. I've been working with him since just before lockdown, full time. He's been coaching for me, and I've loved it. My body has never felt better, and I'm lifting heavier weights than I ever have before. So yeah, it's looking good in terms of coming into the rugby season for next year. So hit him up, please. He's an awesome guy, and I'm hopefully get him on the podcast when I go to Wellington. But yeah, I've been training a lot and thinking about my physique, so I'm definitely nowhere near as lean as I used to be. But in terms of the position that I'm playing, I need to bulk up a little bit. So I've managed to get myself over 100 kilograms, which I haven't done since 2017 or 18. But my goal was to reach over 100 kilograms while still maintaining a fairly lean physique, because it's easy to get over 100 kilograms and just, so I wanted to make sure I maintained a lot of that strength, and I wanted to maintain a lot of the muscle mass that I had. So I'm there, but like, I still look the same, I think, a little bit. But we got asked by my coach. My coach asked me, he was just like, how do you guys see yourselves? Because we were talking about other people. We were talking about people in the MMA and all that sort of stuff. And then he was like, oh, it's interesting to hear how you guys talk about people. How do you guys see yourselves? And I just said, oh, I don't know, pretty skinny. And he was just like, we went through all of us, and then he was just like, it's so weird that you guys think that of yourselves because, other people will see you and just be like, fuck, you're huge, you're a monster, look at your arms, blah, 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 which I think I got 18-inch biceps, I'm not sure. But it's, how do you see yourself? And ask 3 people how they see you, and just see how they add up, and just listen to the kind things that people say, but also take the judgments that other people have of you as well, and start to plan in accordance to what you want to do next year, in terms of, where do you want to be, who do you want to be, and just what types of things do you think are going to bring you joy? Is it going to be continuing on this road that you're on? Is it a road that you've set for yourself? And everything that you're going to do, are you putting extra energy into some things that just don't need your time anymore? I think next year for me, a big thing is just I'm looking after myself. I'm doing the things that make me happy. I want to be the best teammate. I want to be the best teammate in terms of for my academic career. I want to be the best teammate in my rugby team. I want to be the best friend to all of my friends that I have. And I just want to be the best person that I can be. I want to be my best friend as well. I want to start doing things for that are going to help me be healthy, and that's healthy in mind, body, and soul. I'm gonna floss more. I'm gonna floss every day. I brush my teeth every day, but I rarely floss. So I want to do that more, and I want to reach out for help a little bit more as well. And that's not just help mentally and stuff, because I do that stuff all the time. But like, I want to reach out for help with different skills, and I want to be, I want to be uncomfortable a bit more, I think. Anyway, that was my little chafe. That was my little chat. Thank you for riding with me. I know it's the holiday season and numbers go down in terms of listeners because people are out and celebrating. But for those of you who listened all the way, I do love you all. And I thank you so much for tuning in every single week. There will be episodes every single week as well coming out. We've got a few interesting interviews to come out. I'm probably going to interview my sister as well. But yeah, have a great break. Please stay safe over the new year. Love yourselves. Love each other. Remember to share if you need to, and just remember, we all love you, and you are special, and you have helped keep me here, 100%. I truly mean that. But yeah, take care, eat well, eat heaps, don't drink and drive, just be safe. Love you.